Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. Joining us from Inovia Consulting is Seth Lassard, and Seth is going to be presenting on a useful Git branching strategy to utilize when developing Business Central extensions. And before I get started on this topic with you, I just want to remind you that we are recording this webinar as well as all of our webinars, and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library for you to review and share with anyone. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box on the bottom right, and we will have a Q&A session at the end of our session. So now I'm going to pass it on over to Seth to kick off our presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Seth Lassard. I've been a development consultant here at Inovia for just about a year now. It'll be a year at the end of September. And I've been with NAV in BC for a year now, too. I'm learning a lot. I've learned a lot since I started here, but every day I keep finding that there's so much more to learn. A little bit of background about me: I studied computer science at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. I'd like to hang out with my wife, my friends, play video games in my free time, more so video games now, especially that COVID is going around. Don't really have an excuse to go outside anymore. And yeah, I've just been trying to stay safe from COVID. I hope everyone else here is too. So today I have actually a couple poll questions that I want to ask you before we continue. So the first one I want to ask you is, are you a developer?
All right, Seth, we've got a little over half. So 67% has said no, 33 has said yes.
Cool, so we got some developers in here. That's good.
Yep.
Then I have another poll question. Have you had any experience with Git?
And that is the same as well.
That's good to hear. Good to hear that we have some experience. Okay, so our end goal today is to learn to use Git source control in a manner that will result in a stable code base for our Business Central extensions. And this can apply to any other kind of program. It doesn't even have to be a Business Central extension. Could be for anything. But let's go over some quick terminology here. So when I talk about the local repository, I mean the Git repository that exists on the developer's workstation. It'll be on their file system. And when I'm talking about the remote repository, I'm meaning the central Git repository that is hosted on a remote server. Usually it's GitHub or Bitbucket or Azure DevOps. Then when I talk about a commit, what that means is it's just a set of file changes in the current Git repository. So you write some code, you'll stage those files that you've made the code changes in, then you'll commit it. That set of files is your commit. And then we have branches, and branches are a Git mechanism used to separate commit histories within repositories. And then we have tags. A tag is a way to create a human readable name for a commit hash. So when you do a commit in Git, usually it will every time create a commit hash for that commit, and that's a long string of random characters. And it's not human readable. We'll use this tag to declare our actual versions. And then when I'm talking about a feature, I will interchange feature with a new set of functionality. I'll interchange that with a patch or bug fix as well. Those will both mean the same thing to me in this presentation. So in our Git repository, we have the master branch, and this is going to be our main branch. Inside the master branch, there will only ever be production code. It'll be a release-only branch, and we want this to be the case because we want to be able to quickly redeploy, recompile the latest working version of our extension at any time. And no development should ever be done on the master branch. And within this branching strategy, we have the notion of a production release branch. And so in a production release branch, we're going to be preparing for, we're going to do all of our staging for production in this branch. That includes including other features from feature branches. We'll talk about feature branches in a couple slides. This also includes bumping the app.json version to the next version of the extension you want to release. This also includes testing, so we'll be testing within the production release branch as well. And so you'll always want to create a production release branch from the master branch. And so you can do that with the command git checkout master. And you always want to make sure you have the latest code from the master branch. So you want to do a git pull after you do a git checkout. And then to actually create the production release branch, you're going to do git checkout -b and then the name of your production release branch. The checkout -b, that -b tells Git to create a new branch. And so we're going to be including our features into the production release branch by merging our feature branches into the production release branch. And this will make more sense in a few slides. But to be able to merge a feature branch into a production release branch, all you need to do is switch to the production release branch by doing git checkout and then the name of the production release branch, and then git merge the name of your feature branch for every feature branch you want to include into your production release. And so remember, the production release branch is where we'll be doing all of our testing, making sure our features, our new features that we're including are working. And so if we discover during testing that we need to go and make changes to a feature, what you're going to want to do is switch back to the feature branch, the respective feature branch, and then make your code changes there. You'll commit in the feature branch. And then once you're complete making the fixes to that feature that was broken, you would then remerge that feature branch back into the production release. So you do git checkout production release, git merge feature branch. And so once all of our features are tested and verified within the production release branch, we can then declare the next version and then deploy to production. And so what you would do is you would just stage your extensions.app file, you know, the file that's generated when you compile your extension. You would create a new version commit. So you do git commit -m means give the commit a message. And then for the message, we usually do whatever the name of the extension is and then whatever the new version is. And then after we create our version commit, we also want to create a tag so we can go back and find our version later in the future. And you can do that with the git tag command. So you do git tag -a, and then after the -a, you would specify your tag annotation. And so since we're doing version 1.0.1.0, we would specify that there. And then you would specify a tag message as well with the -m flag. And then once after we've created our tag, we can push that to our remote repository, and then we can merge our production release into the master branch. And so remember, at this point, we will have tested all of our code. All of our code is verified, and it's going to be working. So now the code that we merge into master will be safe working code, safe working and stable code. Okay, so now you might be wondering, okay, what's a feature branch? How are we going to develop if we can't develop on a production release branch or the master branch? Well, you would develop in a feature branch. And so however you want to define a feature will be generally up to you, but I define a feature as a set of functionality that just makes sense to group together. So we'll have to remember that all development will be done on a feature branch, and you'll want to separate your development in between feature branches, and you can choose how to do that as the developer, but we'll see in the demo how I do it. So when we create a feature branch, the feature branch will always contain the commit history of whatever branch we were previously on. So if we were on the master branch, which has stable working code, and we create our feature branch off of the master branch, our feature branch would initially have that stable working code from the master branch as well. And the same goes for if you want to create a feature branch from a production release branch. If you did that, then the feature branch would contain the commit history of the production release branch, meaning it would contain the code of the production release branch. And you might want to do the second case, creating from a production release branch. You would only do that, let's say you have a production release branch already created, and then you just come up with another feature you want to quickly include into this production release. This is where you might want to create a feature branch off of that production release branch. But so while we're on our feature branch and developing, it's always a good idea to commit and push to the remote repository frequently. And so we can do that. We can stage our files using the git add command. You can stage everything in your current directory with the git add dot command. That dot just means add everything in the current directory. We'll want to commit our stage files as we develop. So git commit -m will give it a commit message. And if we are publishing our feature branches for the first time, or any branch, what you'll need to do is you'll do a git push, and then you'll specify -u. That's shorthand for set upstream. And then we'll declare origin as our upstream. That's the name of the remote repository. That's the default git name for it. And then we'll specify the feature branch we want to publish. Otherwise, if we have already previously published the feature branch, what we can just do is just a simple git push to push our commits up. Okay, so that's basic outline of the branching strategy. But there's still a couple issues. What if we need to get code from a different feature branch included into my current feature branch? You have two different options here. You can either merge the other feature branch, which would be the dependency, into the production release branch. And you can just do that by switching to the production release branch, git checkout production release branch, and then merge your other feature branch. Get what you do by doing git merge other feature branch. And then once you have your other feature, the dependency feature, in your production release branch, you can merge the production release branch into your feature branch. And you would just do that with git checkout your feature branch and git merge production release branch. And so that's option one, and that's the most preferred way from my standpoint anyways. It'll result in a cleaner git history than the second way, which is just merging the other feature branch, the dependency, into your feature branch. You can do that, but down the line it might lead into more merge conflicts down the road, and just not as clean of a git history. And also, what if I need to switch to a remote branch that doesn't exist locally? Maybe you're taking over work from another developer, and they have a Git branch. They published it to the remote repository, but you haven't yet. You can just do a simple git checkout and then whatever their branch name. And Git's pretty cool. It'll automatically track that remote branch as long as you specify the same name, and you won't need to do a git push -u to set the upstream. So that's pretty neat. Git will handle that for you. Okay, so I want to talk about the demo before we jump in. So our demo is going to consist of, right now we have a blank extension. All it has inside of the extension is the standard Microsoft sales order confirmation report. And we're going to be adding 2 features to this extension. The first feature we're going to be adding is a customer categories feature. It's just going to be a simple way to add a category to each customer. And you'll see here, so these dark blue circles, they means it's a commit with code. So I've written some code and I've committed there. And so I'll do a single commit, and then once we're ready, once this, we'll declare this feature done. Feature 1 will be done after 1 commit, and we'll get ready to stage it into production for our production release. So we'll do that by merging our customer categories branch into our production release. And so at this point in time, our production release branch will have all the finished code from our customer categories. And then once that's finished, we're going to create a sales order confirm branch as well. And inside of this branch, we're going to be doing a couple things. On the sales order confirmation report, we're going to be removing a few header fields. And then we're also going to be adding a customer category code field that comes from the customer table. And that will be added in this code commit here. And so we can see here, this will be the commit to remove the header fields from the sales order confirmation, but then we're also going to require the code that was in the customer categories feature branch before we can implement the customer category code on the sales order confirmation. So what we're going to do is we're going to merge the production release into our sales order confirmation branch. That will give us the code from the customer categories branch, and then we can add that customer category code field. Then we'll merge it back into our production release. We'll do some final testing, make sure everything's good to go, and then once it's complete, we'll create our tags, we'll create our version commits, and then we'll merge our production release into master, and that will be our first version. So let's jump into the demo here. There we go. All right, so before we start, I have 2 sandbox Business Central instances running. I have a sandbox dev, which is where I'll be doing all the development on. And then I have a sandbox test. And this is, here at Inovia, what we use this sandbox for is we deploy any code in our production release branches to this sandbox, and then our customers and our ACs will do testing. And then once we get the go-ahead that the code changes were good and everything is still working, that's when we will go ahead and deploy to production. So sandbox test is just a staging sandbox, that's all it is. Okay, so here I have my webinar extension. You can see if I do a git status, we are on the master branch. If I do a git branch, I can see that master is the only branch in the local repository. I can see all branches if I do git branch -a, and you can see we have our master, which is our local branch, and then we have our remote master. And so first what we're going to do is we want to start our first feature, which is our customer categories feature. But remember, we can't develop on the master branch, so we got to create our first feature branch. And I will do that by doing git checkout -b, and then I'm going to do customer -categories for the branch name. And so you can see switch to a new branch, customer categories. And then the first thing I always do when creating a new branch is I set the upstream right away. So you do a git push u origin and then whatever your branch name is. And so now you can see that this local feature branch is set up to track a remote feature branch called customer categories. And so just to save time here, I'm not actually going to code. Instead, what I have here is I have code that I've already written before. I have a code unit here that handles customer category logic. I have a few page extensions, the customer card and customer list page extension. They just add a couple actions to assign the default customer category to each customer. And then I have a page here, so I have a customer categories page that goes along with this customer category table. And then I have a table extension on the customer table. I'm just adding the customer category code to the customer table here. And so yeah, instead of writing these, I'm just going to copy and paste these into my repository. Okay, so that's done. You should see them pop up here. Okay, yep. So here's our customer category management code unit. We have a couple page extensions here. Here's a customer card page extension. It adds an assign default category action to the customer card. On the customer list page extension, I have another assign default category, but instead of assigning it to a single customer, this one will assign the default category to all customers. And then here's our customer category page. Here's the customer category table. And we got our customer table extension where we're adding our customer category code. And so you're going to see VS Code is complaining here. It's got an error. We don't have a permission set. We can generate that. If we do a Control-Shift-P, generate permission set. And shortly it should go away. Maybe I have to close out of it. There we go. So that's away. So let's just pretend I've developed all this code. You just watched me type all this. I'm going to go ahead and deploy it to my sandbox or my development sandbox just to see if my code changes have worked. So if they did work, I should be able to see a customer category page here. It's customer categories. There we go. Okay, so we have this create default category action. If we click it, it creates a default category. And here we can add other categories. So let's add a gold category. Okay, awesome. So now if we go back to our customers, I've added a couple actions to the list page. So if I go to process, assign default category, that will assign the default category for all. If I click into the first one here, we'll see the customer category code is blank. So what I can do is I can do process assign default category. If I click back in now, you'll see that the customer category code is now default. I can change to gold if I wanted to. So yeah, the first feature looks like it's working great. Now, how are we going to stage this to production? Well, all we need to do now is just commit our changes. So we can do git add dot, and then if we do a git status, you can see what has been staged for committing. And we can see our code unit has been staged. We can see our extensions.app file has been staged. Our page extensions have been staged, the pages, the table extensions, and the table. And our new permission set has also been staged. And you can see the same view here if you click on your source control tab in VS Code. Git status, and clicking on here, our generally the same thing. And to commit these, what we're going to do is just do git commit -m and then added customer categories. Added custom categories will be our commit message. Okay, so our first feature is complete. We want to get this into a production release branch so we can stage it for releasing to production. I'm actually going to do a git push first so I can push our changes to the remote repository. Now I want to create the production release branch. So I'm going to first switch to master because I want the stable code from master in my production release branch. And then I'm going to do a git checkout -b to create a new branch. And then I'm going to do prod-release, shorthand for production release, version 1.0. Let's say 1.0. That'll be the new version. And let me set the upstream. So git push -u prod or origin prod-release v1.0.1.0. Okay, so now I've created the production release branch and I've published it to the remote repository. Now we want to get our customer category feature into this production release branch. To do that, all we need to do is just do git merge and then the name of your branch that you want to merge, so customer categories. And so here, if we look down in the bottom left, you can see this little sync button. It has a 0 with a down arrow and then a 1 with an up arrow. That 1 with the up arrow means we now have one new commit in this branch, which was that merge commit we just did, that doesn't exist in the remote repository. So the commit exists locally, but it doesn't exist in the remote repository yet. So we can do that. We can see that too if we do a git status. Your branch is ahead of origin/prod release version 1.0.1.0 by 1 commit. You can just do a push. So yep, here we are now. We're in our production release branch, and we now have our customer category code. It's all looking good. Okay, so now we can move on to our second feature, which is the sales order confirmation. I'm going to switch back to the master branch, but keep your eye on the just the files up on the left here. You're going to see when I switch to the master branch that they're no longer going to exist. We are currently in the production release. And now when I switch to master, they're gone. And that's because master didn't contain that code we were just working on. So now, screen just flashed. 1 second. All right, so now to create the second feature branch to work on the sales order confirmation report, I'm going to do a git checkout -b to create a new branch, and then I'll call it SO confirm. So now I'm on a new local branch, SO confirm. I want to push it up to the remote repository. So I'm going to do a git push -u, set origin as the upstream, and then SO-confirm. Okay, so now our SO-confirm branch is now in the remote repository as well. You'll notice up here, we don't have any of the customer category code that's in our other branch, and you can see the other branches by doing git branch. So if I were to switch now to, let's switch to customer categories. So if I switch now, if you look up in the upper left at the files, you'll see we only have a reports folder, but if I switch now, we have our code units folder, our page extensions folder, our pages. Okay. So that's how you can use branches to separate development. Switch back to our SO confirm. And similarly to the last feature, I'm just going to copy and paste code instead of writing, just to save time. So here I have the code for 2 commits. The first commit, we will remove the header fields from the sales order confirmation report. And the second commit will add a customer category field. Before we remove them, I'll show you which fields I'm talking about. So if I head over in the sales orders, I'll use the last one here. Okay, so if I print this, okay, so this is the default Microsoft sales order confirmation report, and we're going to remove these three fields up here. So we're going to remove the salesperson, the quote number, and the shipment method, and we'll do that in the first commit. And so this is the code to do that. I'll just copy it, and I'll paste it in our webinar extension. Okay, now pretend I actually went in and made those changes in front of you. If I do a get status, I can see now I have a modified report, and that's the standard sales order confirmation. That's the word layout that I modified. So if I go ahead and deploy this to our development sandbox, we should see that the header fields are removed. Oh, but now we're running into an error. So we're on the SO confirm branch. We no longer have our customer categories code. And we're getting this error because we've added a field in the first feature to the customer table. And now since we're on this separate feature branch, we don't have that code anymore. So when we go to deploy, Business Central is going to complain. It's going to say, hey, this field isn't there anymore. So one way we can get around that for now is we can just open up our launch JSON, and then we can do schema update mode. Let's do a force sync. That's okay because we're in a development sandbox. We don't care about losing data. And so it publishes well this time. Okay, so if I go over to the sales orders now, and let's print the confirmation, see how it looks. We should see those fields are removed, and they are. So those fields are gone. Let's make a commit. I'm going to discard this launch JSON. Don't want it anymore. You only need to do a force sync just the one time. And then down here to stage my files, I'm going to do a git add all. Then I'll do a git commit. Removed header fields. Okay, and then so the next thing we want to do on the sales order confirmation report is we actually want to add that customer category code that comes from the customer table for whatever sales order the customer applies to. And to do that, I have some code written already to do that, so I'll just copy that in now. Okay, so if I do a git status now, you can see I have two modified files. I have the .al file itself, the data set itself is modified, and then also the report layout, the Word report layout is modified. And we can see in here, here's our new additions. We've added the customer category label, and we've added the customer category code. You can see the customer category is getting pulled from this customer record variable, and it's using the customer category code field. But since we're in our other feature branch, our SO confirm feature branch, and not the customer category code, we don't have access to that code yet. And to get access to that code, all we need to do is merge in the production release branch, because we have already staged our customer category feature, the first one, for releasing to production. It's already in the production release branch. So all we need to do is just do a git merge, and then whatever your production release branch name is. So in my case, it's going to be git merge prod-release v1.0.1.0. And so here you'll see there's a merge conflict, and this is with the .app file, the binary file that's created when you're compiling your extension. That's okay. We don't really care about that because when we go to deploy, it'll regenerate that binary file anyways. So we don't really care about it. I'm just going to stage it. I'm going to say take the binary.app file from the production release branch and place it in this one. And to complete this, all you need to do is just do this commit button. And so that'll finish our merge. So if I go back, notice we're still in our SO confirm branch down here. If I do another git status, my screen just freaked out again. So if I do another git status, you'll see we're still on our branch SO confirm, and now we're ahead of the origin/SO confirm by 3 commits. And that's because we just brought in those previous commits, the one from our customer categories feature branch, and then when you merge the first feature branch in the production release branch, you also create another commit. It creates a merge commit, so that's 2 commits. And then when we merge the production release branch into this SO confirm branch, it also creates another merge commit. So that's why we're seeing we're ahead by 3 commits. And so now we should see that our error went away, our customer category code error went away, because we now have the code. So here's our customer category table. We have the code in here. And then on the customer table, we have our customer category field declared now. And remember, we are on the SO confirm branch. Okay, so let's try deploying this. Let's see what it looks like. We'll deploy to sandbox dev. We'll make sure the customer category field is on the header. So let me go to sales orders. Go down to Alpine Ski House. And we'll do a print confirmation. And here's our new customer category field. We can see nothing's populating yet because we haven't set up, or we did previously set up our customer categories. But when we did the force sync on the sandbox dev, it deleted all of that old data that we had. So we'll have to go set that up again. So if I go to customer categories, I'll create the default. See, all the data is missing. It's because we did that force sync. So we'll create the default. Let's add a gold category. And let's add bronze. Okay, and then we'll have to go back to our customers too. We're going to assign the default category now. Let's assign the default to all. So if I click in the Alpine Ski House, you should see default. Yep. And now let's actually change their customer category code to gold. Let's do that instead. So now let's reprint this sales order confirmation. So this is for the Alpine Ski House. We should see gold print out on the header now. And if it does, then our feature works. And there it is, customer category gold. Okay, so that finalizes the sales order confirmation feature. So what we can do here is we can just commit our code. So I will stage it, then I will commit it, added customer category code field to header. And then I will push my local changes to the remote SO confirm branch. And now we want to get this SO confirm branch into the production release. And how do I do that? Well, I just switch to the production release branch. And you'll notice here, let's go into the standard sales order conf report. This is the data set section of the report. And we're in the production release branch now. So we should expect to not see our customer, or not our customer, yep, we should expect to not see our customer category field on the sales order confirmation report. So if I search for it, it won't show up. Okay, we have no results here, and we're in the production release branch. But now if I merge in my SO confirm feature branch, we see now we have one result for customer category, and there it is. There's our customer category code. You can see we're now 3 commits ahead of the remote production release branch. You can do that. You can see that by doing a git status. And we can push those to the remote production release branch, so we're all in sync. In here, so now we're on the production release branch. We have 2 features. We have our customer category feature, and then we have our sales order confirmation feature. What we would normally do internally is we would deploy to a test sandbox. We would have our application consultants go in and look at the new features we've added. They will do some testing. Make sure it's all good to go. We'll run our own automated testing, make sure that's all good and all passing. And then we'll have our customers come in and look at these test sandboxes and make sure the new features that we've added are good to go and up to spec. And if they are, that's when we'll start the process for releasing to production. So let's go check out in sandbox test. Let's go make sure our features are there. Remember, I just deployed this from the production release branch. So let's search up customer categories. Cool, there it is. This is our customer category page. We don't have any data in our test sandbox yet because we didn't do any setup, but we can do some here. Cool, that's good. Let's make sure we can assign our default categories. Let's go to process, assign default category. We should see now any customer will have a default customer category code. That's good to go. We can change the code if we want to. Okay, so the customer category code feature is good to go on sandbox test. How about the sales order confirm? Let's make sure that's good to go too. And we'll do a print here. And cool, so there's our changes. We can see that both changes are in the test sandbox and both changes are working as expected. Now we can pretend that we got the go-ahead from all of our tests and all of our ACs and all of our, and the customer. They gave us a go-ahead to release this to production. Our next steps are going to be, we're going to need to create a version commit. So here, since I'm already in the production release branch, you can see in the bottom left, production release version 1.0.1.0. I will just stage the .app file, which is right here. This Inovia Consulting webinar.app. Or actually, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We need to bump the version. So in the app.json, we'll need to go in the version field, bump it up to 1.0.1.0. Do a Control-Shift-B to build the package. And then here, see, in the changes, we have a new 1.0.1.0 app. There's our app.json change. You can see the same if you do a git status down here. We can see this one is staged, our old version of the .app file. Here's a change that's not staged for commit. That's our app.json. That's when we increase the version field. And here's a brand new untracked file. And this is the new version 1.0.1.0.app file, and it's untracked because we have not done a git add. We haven't run the git add command on it yet. But so if I do a git add dot and do a git status, now I can see all of these changes are ready to be committed. Just to do a little cleanup though, we can actually remove the old version from a repository. Otherwise, if you leave them, you're going to have a giant line of .app files for each version that you have. So I'm going to run git add again to stage those changes. I'll do a git status. Let's see how this looks. So now we have renamed our old version 1.0.1 or version 1.0.0.0.app file to the new version 1.0.1.0.app file. And then we also have our changes to the app.json, and that's just the version bump. So now here we can create our version commit. So we do git commit, and then we do the name of the extension. In this case, it's webinar. Not a great name. And then we do the version. So webinar version 1.0.1.0, that's going to be the commit message. And remember, we're on the production release branch doing this. Okay, so now if I do a git status, we see that we're ahead of our origin or our remote branch by one commit. We can push those up. So now our remote repository is going to have our local changes. And then now we need to create a tag for the version. So we will do git tag -a. -a means tag annotation, and this is what your actual tag is going to be. So if I do git tag -a v 1.0.1.0, the v 1.0.1.0 is your tag. And then you can give it a message. It's actually required that you give it a message. So I will do the same as the commit message, webinar version 1.0.1.0. And then we can push those tags up to the remote repository if you do git push --tag. And so you can see we have a new tag now created. We're still in the production release branch, and we're just about ready to get this merged into master and deploy to production. The only thing we have to do now is actually just switch to master. And then now we just need to merge our production release into master to complete our deployment. So I will do git merge prod release version 1.0.1.0. Okay, and now you can see here's all of our files that were created. Got a whole bunch of new creates, some deletes. And if we look down here, we can see that master, our local master, is ahead of the remote master by 5 commits. And you can see the same if you do a git status on branch master, your branch is ahead of origin/master by 5 commits. Okay, so let's look at our commit history here just so we can have a complete understanding of what went on. So this was the initial commit that was in master before we started. And then we switched over, we created a customer categories branch to work on the customer categories feature. We added our customer categories there, and that's that commit. And then we switched over to the production release branch. We merged our customer categories branch into the production release branch. And then we started our second feature, which was the sales order confirmation. And the first commit we did there was we removed our header fields. But then we realized in order to add the customer category field to the sales order confirmation header, we're actually going to need to include the other code from the customer categories feature. And to do that, we merged our production release branch into our SO confirm feature branch. So that gave us the code that we needed. And then once we were finished with that, we added the customer category field to the header with this commit here. And then back in the production release branch, after we merged we went to the production release branch and then we merged in this SO confirm branch. And then we declared our next version, which is webinar version 1.0.1.0. Okay, so now we will need to make sure that we're always pushing to the remote. You always want to stay in sync. So if you ever have changes that need to be pushed, push them. So now if I open up the repository on the website, we should be able to browse it. So this is the remote repository of the extension we were just working on. Let's go to commits. We can see here's our commits. We have our initial commit, removing the header fields, adding the customer category, and then adding the customer category fields. And then there's our version commit. We can see we still have all of our branches in here. We have our customer categories feature branch. It's behind by master by 4 commits because our customer categories branch does not have the code that the SO confirm branch has. And our SO confirm branch is just going to be one behind master because every time you create a merge, you create a merge commit. So master has an extra merge commit that SO confirm doesn't have. And we can look at our tags here. And here we have our version 1.0.1.0 tag. And here it is. So if I click on here, this will bring me to the code where version 1.0.1.0 was tested at. So we know this is stable code because we had this deployed to our sandbox, our testing sandbox. We ran our tests on it. We had our customers look at it, and it was all passing. And then we created that tag. So that's what this tag here is. It just brings it back to that point in time where you know this was stable. And so if you wanted to deploy this, you could either, go to your DevOps or your GitHub, wherever you go, find your tag or your release, and just download the .app file. And then this is the .app file that you would deploy to production. So you deploy this guy to production. Or if you didn't want to go to, your central repository to do that, you could also just do git tag -- list. That'll show you all the tags in the repository, so all the releases in the repository. And then you can just do a simple git checkout v1.0.1.0. It's going to bring you into a detached head state. So like you can't commit or make changes here, but you can grab your 1.0.1.0 .app file from here. And this would be the stable version that you would want to release. And then actually once we're done with this, we should do a little bit of cleanup before we continue. So let's pretend we just deployed our version 1.0.1.0 to production. We just went and uploaded it, went into extensions here. Went to extensions, manage, upload extension, yada yada. We'll choose our extension. It's not going to let me because you can't do that in this type of sandbox, but that's the normal way you deploy to production. So let's say that's all finished. We'd also have to clean up all of our branches that we created before. So what I'm going to do, it says we're at a head detached state at v1.0.1.0, which is when we did the git checkout v1.0.1.0. We can switch back to master if we do git checkout master. So if I do a git branch again, you'll see we're back on master. We can get rid of these feature branches and the production release branch. We can just do that by doing git branch dash lowercase d customer dash categories. That'll delete the customer categories branch in the local repository. To delete it from DevOps, from the remote repository, you're going to have to do git push delete, or git push origin, sorry, delete customer dash categories. And so you can see here it was deleted from the remote repository. Let's go make sure. Click back in here, we'll go to branches. Cool, it's gone. We only have our production release and we have our SO confirm feature branch. And so those are old too, so we can get rid of those. Can't spell. And then we can delete the production release branch as well, because we've already merged this into master. All right, so now if I go back, do a refresh, we see master is the only branch left. We go back into master, we see all of our codes here looking good. Nothing's missing. We have our new version 1.0.1.0 app. We have our tag for that version, so we can always go back to it if need be. And that pretty much sums it up for the demo. So how would you continue this? So this was our initial development cycle. Our first feature was our customer categories. Our second feature was our sales order confirm. This is our new version 1.0.1.0 commit. This will be the latest commit that's in master. So if you want to continue this strategy, you want to add more features, all you need to do is just check out master, open up a new feature. So feature 3 here, open up a new feature branch, do your commits, do your development in there. If you have more features, open up more feature branches. But once you're ready to deploy your second iteration to production, create a new production release branch and start merging your features into that production release branch one by one. Do your final testing in your production release branch. Once that's good to go, you can make your version commits, your version tags, and then you can merge your production release into master and deploy. But there's going to be a catch. So merge conflicts are always going to be a thing with Git. They're usually generally easily solvable, and they're always going to be unique to your situation. You're going to know what to do when you run into them. It'll make sense to you. Git handles merge conflicts well if it's a text and code file, but if it is a binary file, so like an image, a .app file, a Word report layout file, a docx file, Git can't merge binary files like it can a text file. All it can do is either keep the current version in the branch or overwrite it with the new incoming version from a separate branch. So with that in mind, it's going to be best to complete all work on a single binary file, whether that be a docx or any other file. If it's a binary file, do it all in a single feature branch. It'll save you a lot of pain in the future. And if you still have questions about Git, I realize this isn't a super introductory presentation. If you still have any questions, I advise you to check out these two resources. So this learninggitbranching.js.org, it'll go way more into depth with Git branching and Git commits and like all the ways to merge branches together than I did here. And then this second resource here, I found this to be super helpful just throughout my entire history with Git. If you ever end up making a bad commit or doing something wrong, or you think you lost something, this is just like a choose your own adventure book. It'll ask you, what did you do? How'd you mess up, or what are you trying to do? And you'll just click through the links, and it'll help you fix anything that went wrong regarding to Git. Super helpful resource. And yeah, that concludes it for me. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Seth. It doesn't appear that we have any questions for you today. Appreciate you presenting to the group.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.
All right, and we do have more webinars coming up. We have a couple next Tuesday. We have ClickLearn presenting at 10 a.m. Central on the secret of ensuring high user adoption of your Nav BC solutions. And in the afternoon, we have Desiree Gagir from Innovia Consulting. She is going to be presenting on, is it wise to modify your Nav BC system? So check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's inovia.com/events. And also to let you know, we have a podcast that is going on. It's called the Inovia Conversation. And if you would like to find out more about our podcast and the different platforms that you can listen to, check out our podcast page, and that's inovia.com/podcast. So you can subscribe and you'll be notified when those new episodes air. And fall is here, and that means conference time in our environment. Inovia Consulting is proud to be a premier sponsor for Dynamics Con. This is a new virtual conference that actually began today, September 9th, and it goes until tomorrow, the 10th. And did I mention that it is free to attend? And Inovia is also a premier sponsor for Community Summit, which is also a virtual event coming up on October 7th through the 9th. And Summit is the annual gathering for all NAV and Business Central users and supporters. Both of these events are full of great sessions to help you develop leadership skills, improve your NAV BC skills, and so much more. So check out our conference page, and that's inovia.com/conferences for more details on these conferences and how you can save on your summit registration. All right, well, we thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Seth, for presenting, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Inovia webinar. Have a great week,
Yeah.
everyone.